What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports. I'm back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the impact players for the Cleveland Browns going into the 2019 NFL season. Now, the Cleveland Browns have had the most intriguing and interesting offense out of any NFL team this offseason, probably ever. I mean, John Dorsey, the general manager for the Cleveland Browns, is basically building this team like how you would in a Madden connected franchise. I mean, this guy is executing crazy trades, the Odell Beckham trade, the Olivier Vernon trade. This guy is running this Cleveland Browns organization like a freaking Madden franchise. And I like that. Very aggressive. And I'm very interested to see how this ends up unfolding and how this plays out. So the first guy that we have on this list is quarterback Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield had an outstanding rookie year for the Cleveland Browns, despite not being the starting quarterback day one. He had 3,725 passing yards to go with 27 touchdowns. He threw 14 interceptions and completed 63.8% of his passes. Now, Baker Mayfield, this guy had a good rookie year, and now he gets to throw to Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. Not too many quarterbacks have this talented of a wide receiving core, and this guy, I'm expecting a huge year out of Baker Mayfield. I'm actually expecting an MVP caliber year out of Baker Mayfield, and his stats should at least double. He should have near Patrick Mahomes like stats this coming season, at least 40 something touchdowns, probably almost 5,000 yards passing. I mean, this guy, I'm expecting a big year out of Baker Mayfield because look at these guys who he has throwing to. I mean, this guy is throwing to Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Njoku. I mean, if this guy doesn't have an MVP caliber season this coming year, it would be a disappointing season for Baker Mayfield. I don't care MVP season or MVP caliber season or bust, and that's my expectation for Baker Mayfield. Next up, I have halfback Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb last season was 4 yards shy of 1,000 yards, had 996 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and averaged 5.2 yards per carry. He's going to be a big part of the Cleveland Browns offense and probably the workhorse back since Kareem Hunt is serving a 9-game suspension for the NFL when the season starts. And also Duke Johnson, he's more of a slot, more of a wide receiver who they like to get out in passing situations. And I don't even know if he's still even going to be on the roster by the time this season begins. But Nick Chubb, man, this guy had a good rookie season, 4 yards shy of 1,000 yards. This guy is an absolute freight train, and I'm expecting a big year out of him too this coming season, going into the 2019 NFL season. Next on this list, we have wide receiver Jarvis Landry. Now, Jarvis Landry was a Pro Bowler last year, despite not having his best year, which you could say was held back a little bit by the quarterback situation at the start of the year. And Jarvis Landry, it was just he just didn't have your normal Jarvis Landry type year. I mean, this guy had 976 receiving yards, 81 receptions, and 4 touchdowns. Those are way down. Not well, when it comes to receiving yards, not really way down that department, even though he's pretty much a guaranteed most years to have 1,000 receiving yards. But this guy is almost a 99.9% lock to have at least 100 receptions every year. Now, he might not have 100 receptions this coming season with Odell Beckham on the roster, but I'm still expecting a high amount of catches, probably about that 90 reception range, nearing 100. And also, I'm expecting a lot more touchdowns. He only had 4 touchdowns last season. Those numbers need to increase dramatically, and they should with the additional Odell Beckham. It's pretty much going to be pick your poison. Either you're going to have to double team Jarvis Landry. When you double team Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham is going to be open to have some chances. Then when Odell Beckham gets double teamed, Jarvis Landry is going to have chances. So I'm expecting a better season than what Jarvis Landry produced last season. Last season, to me, was pretty much a disappointment for Jarvis Landry. Next up, we have wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. was acquired in the trade that the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns executed, involving the 17th overall pick of this year's draft and a few other draft picks. And they sent safety Jabril Peppers, who actually had a very good season last year. That's going to be a big loss for the Cleveland Browns. But last season, Odell Beckham, he had 1,054 receiving yards, 77 receptions, 6 touchdowns. Um, Again, I'm gonna put him in the Jarvis Landry department. I mean, I think he suffered injury that sidelined him for a couple of games. Not your normal typical Odell Beckham Jr. like season. I mean, for any wide receiver, these stats would be considered very good, Pro Bowl caliber stats. But for a guy like Odell Beckham, you would expect these stats to be way, way better. And I do believe he missed some games last season. But I mean, Eli Manning, he had a pretty good season, but Eli Manning, I feel, was holding him back. And I think with the Cleveland Browns, now with Jarvis Landry and having a better quarterback in Baker Mayfield, he's going to have a very good season. I mean, this guy is going to have, I think he might have one of the best seasons in his young career. I think he's going to have at least 1,200 receiving yards, probably about 90 receptions. I can't see him getting over 100, him or Jarvis Landry, because both of those guys are going to be targeted a lot. So I can't really see a lot of those guys, neither one of those guys getting over 100 receptions this year. But I think he's probably going to have the most touchdowns on the team. I think he's probably going to have 10 touchdowns because he's a lot more explosive after the catch than what Jarvis Landry is. So those are my expectations for Odell Beckham. The last offensive player that we have on this list is tight end David Njoku. Now, David Njoku is the player that nobody's really talking about in this Cleveland Browns offense. Most of the time, people are talking about Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, how good they're going to be together, but nobody's talking about tight end David Njoku. Had a pretty good year. He had 639 receiving yards, 56 receptions, and 4 touchdowns. And he's going to benefit a lot with the addition of Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry because he actually got targeted, I believe, 80 something times, near 90 targets last season from Baker Mayfield. So David Njoku is going to be another guy who is going to have a pretty good year. I don't think he'll be that 1,000-yard receiving tight end, but I think he will have at least 800 receiving yards, probably have about 60 receptions. I'll give him 6 touchdowns, and I think he'll make it to the Pro Bowl this season. Now on the defensive side of the ball, we have defensive end Myles Garrett, who was the first overall pick for the Cleveland Browns a few years back. He went to the Pro Bowl last year, had 44 tackles, 13 and a half sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 pass deflections. Very good year for Myles Garrett, and it's going to be interesting because Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry aren't the only duo we're going to be talking about. Him and Olivier Vernon, I'm interested to seeing how good that duo is going to be. Olivier Vernon to me is probably one of the most overrated players in the NFL. I'll get into that when he comes up on his list. But Myles Garrett, I think he's probably going to have his best season this coming year. I believe he'll have 16 sacks. He's going to be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett is going to have a big year this coming season for the Cleveland Browns. Next up, we have cornerback Denzel Ward, who had a phenomenal season. Probably one his rookie year for a defensive back is very, very overlooked because we look at Derwin James and we looked at the production and how good Derwin James was last season. So he overshadowed Denzel Ward. But Denzel Ward had a very good rookie year. He made it to the Pro Bowl, had 53 tackles, 3 interceptions, 11 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. And Denzel Ward, man, is going to be interesting to see how him and Greedy Williams are going to be on this defense. Now, what I've read, I heard that Greedy Williams will not start, at least right now. He's not projected to start, but I think that's going to change as soon as week 1 comes. I believe he will end up being the starter. But Denzel Ward, man, this guy is a beast. He's an absolute he reminds me a lot of a younger version of Joe Hayden. The way that this guy is able to play man to man and press, he reminds me of a younger version of Joe Hayden. When Joe Hayden first got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and also Joe Hayden had a similar success rate when he first got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. His first 3 years, Joe Hayden was one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. And Denzel Ward, I think he's going to have a very good season for the Cleveland Browns also. I believe he'll probably have about the same amount of interceptions because I don't believe quarterbacks are going to try to throw his way a lot this year because of how good he is. And I think he's going to have a very good season for the Cleveland Browns. Next up, we have defensive end Olivier Vernon. Now, Olivier Vernon was also a guy who the Cleveland Browns traded for from the New York Giants. And I think this guy is very overrated. He missed 5 games this year. He made it to the Pro Bowl. He had 30 tackles, 7 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. But I mean, this guy is overrated to me. And here's why I think Olivier Vernon is overrated. Now, this is a guy who has only had one double digit sack season. And that came all the way his second year in the NFL in 2013. Now, I know he missed a couple of games this season. Probably if he would have played in those games, he probably would have hit double digit sacks. But I mean, we can't live on what ifs and hypotheses and whatnot. And if he would have played in all of those games, but I mean, this guy has only had one double digit sack season, and that was in 2013. And this guy got a big contract in free agency with the New York Giants. Didn't really live up to it, in my opinion. I mean, his season high with the New York Giants was in 2016, and that was only when he had 8.5 sacks. He just overrated to me. I don't think he's deserves the contract that he had with the New York Giants, and I see why they were so willing to trade him, because he's just to me been disappointing. Although he made it to his first Pro Bowl this year, I think he should be a lot better than what he's displaying on the field. And this year, I think he's going to have a pretty good year for the Cleveland Browns. But I don't think, in my opinion, a good year for him would be 10 sacks this year. And that's the bar that I'm setting for him. I mean, nothing wrong with getting 9.5 sacks, 8.5 sacks. But when you're getting paid like how this guy was, and he's also going to be alongside Myles Garrett, who's probably going to demand double teams or whatnot. So he's going to have a chance to get double digit sacks this year. If he doesn't get at least 10 sacks this year, then this season for him is a disappointment, because I just feel he's a lot better player than what the stats show, and he's not displaying that on the field. And I think he needs to get 10 sacks this year. That's the expectations I have for him. And that's it for this video, top 10 or impact players for the Cleveland Browns going into the 2019 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.